Well, folks, I suppose there are one or two among you who think that my inventions are a bit ahead of their time. A shade fantastic, perhaps.
Rube Goldberg was a cartoonist in the mid-1900s that drew these contraptions and became quite famous for them, but he never actually built them. After his death, his relatives started the Rube Goldberg machine competition, where elementary through college students build these machines and compete internationally. So my group was first introduced in 8th grade in tech class, and it's gone from there. A Rube Goldberg machine is a complicated chain reaction that completes a simple task. So it's a way to put everyday items together in an unusual way that's super engaging. So we first started this in 8th grade in tech class. It was a regular assignment for class where we had to in groups of 3 build a Rube Goldberg machine, and ultimately the best group was going to get submitted to the competition. Turned out there were 2 pretty good groups, so the teachers decided that we should combine our machines and add on to it in order to submit that instead of choosing one of the groups, and Theo was added on as a filmmaker. So we did that, we combined our machines, and we submitted it that year. It actually never worked, but we learned a lot, and Miss Petrini was amazing throughout that because she could have easily just picked one group and gone with that. That would have been easier for her, but she saw our passion and she wanted to do that, and if that's not a good teacher who supports you and takes more work on for themselves, then I don't know who is a good teacher. Collaborating with 6 other people on this project is super rewarding, but also sometimes super frustrating. We do this outside of school, so with varying levels of commitment and other activities and availability, it's definitely a challenge. I think throughout the 4 years I've emerged as the leader, probably due to the fact that I'm super passionate about this, that it's at my house, and that I tend to like leading things. I think the decision-making process usually goes pretty well. As I said before, I'm the leader, so I kind of try to make I set like the agenda for each day and things, but when it comes to decisions as to like parts of the machine, I hope we all agree. I'd say on the bigger items that play into more like the theme and like where the energy will go as a whole, it's usually pretty unanimous, and if it's not like a big deal unless like no one gets upset about it. And then for the smaller things, it's usually a vote, and we have 7 people, so there's always a majority. So like for the name for this year's machine, there were 2 options and we had a vote. That's what it was, and it's Goldberg's Pizzeria. But yeah, there was a couple instances in previous years where I had crazy, and this year the pinball machine, where I had crazy ideas, and it was kind of like, well, if Rebecca can get it working in a certain amount of time, then I guess we agree, and if not, we have to scrap it, which is totally fine by me because it's giving me the benefit of the doubt, and if it doesn't work, then I had my shot. So in 8th grade, when we built our machine, it was separate from the rest of the class, and because they were using the classroom, we had to find an alternative space, and we built it in a little storage closet off one of the main rooms. So that worked for our machine. It was a little cramped, but afterwards we thought it was kind of ridiculous that there wasn't a space to pursue things like this. So we proposed to Miss Petrini, who had already kind of been floating the idea of a makerspace. We're already separate from the rest of the class. Why don't we attempt to do this? And she agreed. So we ran around the school with measuring tapes and a blueprint app on our iPads and documented the whole school and made 3 proposals about where a makerspace could best fit and utilize like the space that was already there. And we presented our options to the superintendent and principal, and they enjoyed it. And day of graduation, they told us that they were going to accept one of the options, and that was super exciting. And now when we go back to the middle school, the space is in there. They built it that summer, and we can see the current students there using the space that we provided. If I were to talk to a younger student who wanted to become part of a Rube Goldberg team, I'd tell them it's a lot of work and commitment, but if they're into this type of stuff, it's super, super fun and rewarding. There's actually a group of elementary school students that I mentored for a day and they were going to start building this. They got pretty far. Some of the kids lost interest and the others couldn't pull the weight. But what they began was really cool, and I'm hoping they can continue next year. And some middle schoolers I've been talking to, they seem very interested for the future. So if they love it, they should do it because it's definitely pays off, but it can also be a lot of work. So just expect that. When we were notified we won first place last year, I, for one, everyone was very excited and happy because we'd spent so long on it, and to have that sort of reward was amazing. What I remember more vividly, though, is when it worked the first time, because usually when we film, we only have 2 or 3 people at a time because we don't need everyone there, because one person's in the machine, one person's filming. That's kind of all that's necessary. And the first time it worked, we had 6 of the 7 people there, and that was super cool because it's exciting when it works, and it's so much more exciting when almost everyone gets to see it. And in our video, you can hear a huge cheer go off at the end because it was so exciting. So each year, the competition announces the task, which is what the machine has to do. So every machine that's submitted to the competition will do the same thing, but teams use different themes and steps to make theirs unique and to get it there. So in 8th grade, we focused a lot on the mechanics and not on the theme, despite Miss Petrini's insistence that it was important. So we put together the machine and then attempted to put a winter theme onto that. So it wasn't very themed, the machine never worked, but we learned a lot from that. Then in 9th grade, the task was to apply a Band-Aid. So with that, we made a doctor's office theme. We got supplies from local doctor's offices, and we ordered some online and stuff, and we made the setting with the doctor's office. There was a patient in the machine who had a cut on their arm, so they rang the bell to get help, and then the machine ultimately went through and put the Band-Aid on them. Last year in 10th grade, the task was to pour a bowl of cereal, and we went with a kid's bedroom. So we had a bed, we painted the walls yellow, put down wooden floors, and got a bunch of toys from various people. So there was a person in bed, a kid who woke up, it triggered the machine, and then a bowl of cereal was delivered right to them in their bed. And then this year, the task is to put money in a piggy bank, and we went with a pizza parlor theme, making the piggy bank the tip jar. So someone comes up and orders a pizza, and the person behind the counter places the order. That triggers the machine, and then ultimately the pizza is delivered to the customer, and the coin goes into the piggy bank as a tip. Getting the items themselves usually isn't that hard. In 9th grade with the doctor's office theme, I went to a local doctor's office and asked for unwanted or old items, and they were able to give us a box. And for the kids' bedroom one, I posted on social media asking for old toys that anyone had, and we got a huge bag of them. So we used that. What's more difficult regarding the items is how we can incorporate them, because it's still kind of unnatural to go for the themed item. Like if I'm attaching a shelf to the wall, I'm going to go for a piece of wood rather than a toy to hold it up. So that's challenging, but I've definitely gotten better at it. I think other people are too. And pretty much what I keep thinking is any item we go for, even if it's not super themed, is going to be more themed than the piece of wood, which is the alternative. So we've gotten better at theming the machines for sure.
Hi, my name is Hayden Yearout, and I think my most passionate interest over the past few years when it comes to Rube Goldberg has definitely been just the engineering of it. Personally, I've always been fascinated with engineering and seeing how things work and how all the bits and pieces of our modern technology works together. And whether that be like an airplane that I fly on to visit my grandparents or a car I drive in every day, I think that's just what I've always been fascinated with, and that's what really brought my interest to this team. Rube Goldberg doesn't get a lot of credit, but he's a very important man. He's what the machines are obviously named after, but he never actually built any of his machines. He just drew out blueprints for them, and he's really what started the whole idea of a Rube Goldberg machine, just using a bunch of simple things, whether that be like a spoon or a cup or a bunch of household items, to just come together and build this giant wacky machine that really doesn't have a purpose, but it's fun and it's interactive, and it really inspires a whole new generation of engineers, including myself, to come together and build these machines. So he definitely deserves a lot of credit. When we build a Rube Goldberg machine, we try to incorporate household items into our machine, but we also use a bunch of parts that you can't buy online, so that you can't buy at a local store. So that's kind of hard. So when we're buying these parts, it's hard to find them. So we have to look online and in these really random seeming places. And actually, where we find a lot of our parts is through the community. So we've gotten a large range of the parts that we use through people online in Mill Valley who happen to have a bunch of kids' toys or a bunch of kitchen items, like which is what we got this year. And that's really helped us out in the past. And when you're building a Goldberg machine, you need all these oddly specific items, and they can be hard to find, but if we put in enough effort, we're able to find them and incorporate them into our machine and make it even more awesome. I'd say that my teammates, who I'm so fortunate to be able to work with, we have a lot of shared interests, but we also have a lot of different interests, and that's what allows us to work so well together. Because each of us brings something new to the table, we really aren't a one-track mind. We each have our own opinions, and that's really what allows us to create these amazing machines.
My name's Hannah Kahn. I think it comes as a shock to some people when I tell them I don't want to go into engineering, but that I'm doing Rube Goldberg still, because everyone here wants to be an engineer or loves that. I've always really loved art. Ever since I was a little kid, I love to draw and paint, and I think I have somewhat of a wild imagination, so I was really drawn to Rube Goldberg because I really loved that I had the ability to imagine these wild contraptions and then build them for myself, and I really like the design aspect of it. I like being able to bring my imagination to life.
Hi, my name's Theo Kaufman. I've been doing Rube Goldberg the past 4 years, and I've had various different roles, whether that be the odd jobs kind of guy or the cameraman. I've done a lot of different jobs. Probably some of my favorites and what I've done this year specifically is just making sure the team runs smoothly. You know, working in such a small environment, you need to make sure that the team has good chemistry and everyone works well together. Specific things that I helped work on in the machine is paint the pizza box or clean up the environment, or I'm always behind the camera doing all the filming for all the videos that you see online. And most importantly, I just like showing up and making sure my friends, who arguably are a little smarter than me, get the job done, get all the materials they need, and I'm there to support them all the way. Way back in time, Rube Goldberg would draft up all these comics of wacky, elaborate machines, and people would read in the newspaper and laugh at how crazy it would be to do something so simple like open up an umbrella. And now, in 2019, we bring these comic books to life. We turn something that people once read as silly, crazy contraptions drawn as cartoons, and now they look at our machine. We make videos of these crazy, elaborate contraptions brought to life. So we've done things like open up an umbrella with 50 steps, or we've done things like apply a Band-Aid in 47 steps, and all these crazy, elaborate things to achieve basically a seemingly simple task, something that Rube Goldberg strived to do 50 so years ago.
I'm Sarah Petrini. I'm a teacher at Mill Valley Middle School. I majored in sociology because I knew I wanted to work with people, and I wanted to make a difference in the world somehow. And I decided that education might be my ticket, that I could work with the kids. I started by teaching physical education because I always loved sports growing up, and I loved seeing the kids outside of the classroom. I felt like I really got to know them better and got to challenge them and give them challenges to, because I also felt like in school that we weren't taught how to think, or we weren't made to think. So I love giving kids challenges and making them think, and PE was fun. I got into technology because one year the school said that they needed a technology teacher for one class who wanted to teach it, and I said, I will. When I started teaching my 8th grade tech class, I thought, what would be a good project that these kids could do that could be a nice lead-in for coding and also have them work through some problem-solving skills, work as a team, and learn kind of and analyze the simple machines that go into many of the machines that we have. So we did Rube Goldberg machines. I actually also did made a Rube Goldberg machine in 8th grade, and it was kind of one of the highlights of school was building a Rube Goldberg machine. Well, I start by having them learn the simple machines. We do, I have them learn how to put them together to make a compound machine. And then I say, okay, here's your challenge. You and your team go, and here are the resources I'll give you, and you go try to figure it out. And pretty much from there, I step back and help guide them without really telling them what to do, but kind of offering resources or ask questions or ideas, because I think they learn more from their failures than they do from their successes, and giving them the opportunity to try different things and see how they work is better than me telling them this needs to connect to this and this is how it works. But by trial and error and working together with the team, I think they acquire more skills. I think the most important lessons that they learn from Rube Goldberg project is patience, perseverance, teamwork, how to use everybody's skills in the group to accomplish the task. But I think patience, perseverance, and problem solving, I think, are the biggest skills they learn. When I had Rebecca in 8th grade, in my 8th grade tech class, she was always the student that everyone wanted to do their projects with because she was organized. She was a good leader. She helped capitalize student strengths in each project, and she always pushed herself to do the best that they could in each project. And I think Rebecca is kind of the only reason that this team is still building machines. And it's funny because Theo told me, or I asked Theo and Hayden on the way back from a trip recently, I said, would you guys still be making these machines right now if it weren't for Rebecca? And they both said, definitely not. From what I've seen, what she does, she makes sure that these kids are here every weekend, that they're committed. When someone is starting to get distracted, she makes sure to bring them right back in. She makes sure that everyone has a task and everybody's strength is capitalized on. She has a great leadership skill that I don't see in many middle school students. Not many at all for an 8th grader. And it's quite commendable.
Folks, I've done it. I've discovered the secret of perpetual motion. Yes, sir. Long, long after you and I have departed from this earthly scene, this machine of mine will be working on and on and on and on, never stopping for Sundays, holidays, or bank nights.